Everybody, so today it is raining really hard outside of my studio, so I am going to spend a good bit of time doing some resin projects, and we'll be making some jewelry. You see I have set up some of the drips. So this is a dried drip, and I'm gonna put some pieces of drips inside. These are molds that you can buy for jewelry. This one is a drip from actual colored resin that I did a geode. You can see I've already kind of sketched out where I want to pull that piece from. And let me show you this side of the table. This is just a bank of drips that I have. As you see, if I peel back the layers, you'll see all kinds of colors, different things that I could use to make some jewelry and coasters. Just drips that I have saved because I use my silicone mats. Alright, so for this piece, I found a skin that I really like. I'm going to use a brass necklace piece. So you see they come in all these different shapes. I just buy them on Amazon. So I could put the link to that below. So I just find the place that I want, and I use my X-Acto knife. I have a cool little kit. Use my X-Acto knife and cut it out. This cutting mat is from a Creative Memories set that I had when I did scrapbooking. Be very careful with your X-Acto knives. And if there's any pieces that didn't quite come off, you can just use scissors to trim them. So I think I got it all though. Alright, so there is my piece. So let me put it back in there and make sure it fits. Alright, so it fits nicely. I might trim off this little bit right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to seal this edge with a little bit of clear glue. And I'm going to put this aside when I'm done mixing up all of my resin for my other projects that I have out here. Then it will just be one of many that is ready to go. So next I have found that if I have some pieces that stick in there nicely, I just kind of poke them in, try to get them in there flat. And sometimes there are pieces that don't stay in so well. And if that's the case, then what I like to do is take some clear glue. I really just kind of put it on my finger. And let me show you on this piece. Look at, isn't that one going to be beautiful? So I just kind of put some on my finger and I catch the edges. And the reason that I do this, you don't really have to do this, but what I've discovered is if I don't do this for pieces that don't fit tight, then once I pour the resin, it starts to kind of float away and leak around the edges, and I don't want that. So let's see, I want this piece to be this side up. So I'm on a piece of parchment paper with this now. And I am just going to go ahead and let that glue settle into that a little bit. It's not sealing it, but it's going to keep that piece of paint in one spot on this necklace piece while I'm ready to go. Alright, so I've mixed up my resin. And according to the instructions on the package, 50% of part A, 50% of part B, and then mix until there are no more cloudiness things in there. So we do have lots of bubbles, but that's okay. So next I've got everything all laid out. You want to get everything prepared before you get started, just because once you start mixing up your resin, it has about 30 minutes before it starts getting a little more difficult to work with. So I like to get everything ready ahead of time. So I'm going to start by just kind of dripping my resin into my jewelry pieces. Now resin is self-leveling, meaning it's going to flow wherever you need it, and it's going to end up being flat. Now because these have a lot of bubbles, I'm going to turn up the heat in my studio before I walk away. The heat in the studio will help the bubbles come up, but I could also torch it before I walk away too. That will help. I think we've got enough in that one, maybe a little bit more. It's hard to tell once the bubbles go away. Some of that will, once the bubbles go away, some of that will level even more. So you see all those bubbles in there? Now this is the piece that is resin to begin with, a piece of resin that was beautiful from a geode that I did. So hopefully that one adds a deep effect to that. The other thing to pay attention to is to try to make sure your things on your table are level to start with. Now you see this piece of paper comes up. It's a little bit uneven. We'll try to take that down before I walk away today too. So I'm just going to fill each one of these. And then I'm going to torch it, get some of the bubbles out, and then refill if I need it. If you don't follow your manufacturer's instructions on your resin type coating that you purchase, you may end up with just a sticky mess. So always follow those instructions. Alright, let's try to get rid of some of those bubbles. See how fast those go away just by heating it. And so see it sunk down in. We'll do one more coat. Not too much, you don't want it to overflow. Now one of these pieces actually I think had a little bit of a gap between the skin. I thought I caught it with glue. I don't know for sure if I did. We'll see. It'll leak out the bottom and I can sand it if it does that. Don't ask me how I know that. Alright, so that should be good. Let me torch that again. Now you see I don't have to get the torch too close. I'm really just heating the air around it. That's another thing your manufacturers on your box. Alright, so you can see I have my first layer of resin in these pieces. Now this is the one that started with resin. It is maybe not going to need any more in it after this, but these, you see they have a little bit of a leak going on. Once that settles, if I want this to be even, then I'm going to want to put a second layer of resin in there. So when these are done, so 24 hours, maybe 48 hours if I don't come back right away. And what I'll do is I'll break these edges off. If the edges don't come off easily, I get my X-Acto knife out and maybe even some sandpaper just to make sure those edges are nice and smooth. So in the next step of what to do with these is to clean them up a little bit. They'll have some stuff around the edges if there's any overflow. Some people like to leave the paint just like it is on the back or cover it with felt. I am going to use some Deco Art Outdoor Living paints in brass and gold and paint the back. And on the silver one, I think I'm going to paint the back black. All right, so that is it. That is all you need to do with these. And then they should be ready to wear. I'll show you them when they're totally finished, all right? Thank you for watching.